community song.
And this is SoundAdvice.
Biggest lesson I've learned is to be temperate in what you eat because it's super easy in the instability of being on the road to just consume anything and everything, especially when you're stopping at gas stations, mainly on the tour bus or whatever, because you're not home for a long time, and if you're not careful, you'll come home looking like the bus. So.
I would say the biggest thing I'd say I learned is to actually pack lightly. I think the first tour we did in Europe, I packed so much, and even though I had clothes to wear, it wasn't worth it. The mental load it had on me to have that much stuff and always have to keep track of it was just too much. So I would say pack lightly. If you can, shop when you get to the places, go to thrift stores, go to vintage stores, and that's kind of part of the experience, like going to London, going to Paris, going to these places and finding unique pieces in those countries instead of bringing everything from home. I would say that is the biggest lesson I learned, and it's kind of fun, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would say adaptability is very important because there's so many moving parts and there's no way of knowing what you're walking into when you go into a new venue. Also, leave a trail of good feeling in every venue because you never know when you're going to be back there and you're going to need those people. So it always helps to have friends across the country and the world that love you in these venues. So
I would say growing together, I feel like the biggest key for us has been respecting each other as individuals. And it sounds like the most basic thing, okay, that's basic human knowledge. But when you're siblings, some basic human knowledge goes out the window, because you just grew up together, you're desensitized to each other, and you just see each other as oh, that's just my little sister, that's just my little brother. So I think we found the most growth when we stopped looking at each other as, whatever we saw each other as when we were growing up and started to view each other from our respective creative minds and inputs and identities and expression. And yeah.
Yeah, your bandmates are not a problem for you to solve. Or it's just we don't have to fix each other. We are who we are, and we'll grow together over time, and there's so much freedom in that.
I have some advice also. I would say individualism is really important in mental health and just health as a person, feeling like you are an individual person. And a lot of times it's important to have your individual goals and understand who you want to be in life as an individual, because you're growing up with people, with a group of people, and then clumped into that, you're already clumped in as family, but now your profession is clumped in together, and you can kind of start to feel like you can start to feel lost, or you can also kind of take other people's identities on yourself and kind of try to take ownership of others and try to, it can become easy to just think of yourself as a collective instead of as an individual. And so keep staying grounded and understanding you're an individual and having individual goals and individual achievements and all those things, and having a little bit of separation in certain areas is, I think, healthy.
I think it always comes down to authenticity for us. So when we're developing any visuals for a song or for just our look or image, it's just about diving deeper into who we already are and what the song is about. What is the world of the song? What is the emotion of the song and the character, and how can we put that into an image, into a video, into 30 seconds? And always just not kind of blocking the world out and not looking at what everybody else is doing, but going inside yourself and being like, what do I have? Who am I naturally? And like, how can I show that to the world?
Yeah, I feel like when people see our visuals, a lot of the things that they don't realize is like half of the image is like what we're wearing, how we do our hair, like all those small decisions that just make up who we are. It's not a costume, it's just what we like to wear, how we like to present ourselves, and then that's literally half of it. And then the rest is like, okay, composition and like creative direction and, editing and coloring and stuff like that. But without that base of first figuring out who you are, what you want to say visually with the way that you present yourself, without that, you can have everything else and it still doesn't connect, So it's a perfect marriage between like the technical and like the individual expression, which is a really big key for us, individual expression. Yeah.
It took a lot of time, and it's not easy. I think there's a substantial upside to being successful on social media. Social media has changed our lives, and so it takes a lot of work and patience and introspection. And you can do it with an iPhone, but you can't only do it with an iPhone. Like, you still have, it's still a skill, it's still a job, it's still something that requires work. So if you don't have like a Blackmagic camera or a Sony camera or something crazy expensive, and you don't have all the editing material, you can do it with the iPhone, but the work has to be done nonetheless. And so we're grateful that people are catching on to our music and our visual language.
Just paying the artists that, create the music that everybody listens to in a much fairer way, in a way where they can actually see it and feel it and be supported by it.
Yeah, I would second that. Like, I don't think we make any money off of like the actual music that we sell to the fans. Like, I think it all really comes down to different avenues of revenue and stuff like that. So I would say that I feel like a lot of artists also have that, gripe with the industry and like, the way that things are. So
Yeah, I mean, music is the most important art form, in my opinion. Don't come for me, dancers and visual artists. But music fuels the world, I think, from a creative perspective. If we have money but no music, we don't really have anything going for us. So, we gotta figure that out, because it's the most valuable art form, and everyone else is able to put a number on their art form, and the number's been put on our art form for us. And so I love everybody, but let's fix it. And if we don't fix it, it's gonna break, and that's not good for anyone. So let's figure it out.
What comes to most musicians' minds is like streaming, because we want people to buy our music. But I also love streaming because it's, as with people who have gripes with like TikTok or whatever, it's opened the door for a lot of artists, and it's broadened the path for artists who would not have access to the path when the path was very small. It's taken a lot of power out of these guys' hands and put it in a lot of smaller guys' hands.
I have one. Just have fun. That's the worst advice I've ever heard.
Oh, what?
It's terrible. And people say this in the music industry. No, just have fun. Just vibe out. That's a lot. No, don't do that.
My best advice that I've heard.
Oh, my bad. I'm sorry.
Are you gonna go?
I'll say why. Only because this is a job and this is work. And if you want to achieve something great, you got to work at it. There are people working really, really hard and not seeing the privileges that we get to see. We need to apply that same drive and tenacity to our privilege or work. So, yeah.
So have fun, but if you're only having fun, you're not working hard enough.
I actually really like the advice of having fun personally because I forget that a lot, and it helps me to like not be nervous when I just remember just have fun. But my best advice that I've heard is from my dad, and it's just generally to remain humble and like remain grateful, and just every day implementing those ideas and just reminding myself of those things helps the day-to-day life, because there's a lot of logistics and a lot of every day something new, and it's just going, and it can be very draining. But if you remain from the lens of gratitude and humility, it makes things a lot easier for sure.
Yeah. I would say the best advice that I've gotten that like still sticks with me to this day. I was 18 at a party, at a Grammy party. I think it was like the Universal Grammy after party. And someone, I cannot remember her name, but she was an artist. And I told her how old I was, and she was like, oh my gosh, protect your heart. Protect your heart. And the way that she said it with such gravity, and like she meant it from the bottom of like her entire being. And she scared me. Like she just scared me, and I was like, oh, okay, I will. And so that has been kind of like throughout everything, throughout all of the industry. And like, you know, this walk can be tough, and there's a lot you can get better about and all that stuff, but it's been on the front of my head, in the front of my mind for all these years since then. Like, okay, first and foremost, protect your heart, because that's where everything else flows from. Yeah.
Oh, that was Brooke.
Yes, Brooke Fraser.
Brooke Lidgerwood, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
What?
Wait, when did you meet her?
20 in.
And why wasn't I there?
I don't know.
I'm such a huge fan.
But
I'm so
yeah,
jealous
she
now.
literally said that, and I was like, I will remember you for the rest of my life.